Hi. So now what we're going to do some work on is this pose in second series called Pincha Mayurasana. So it's a forearm stand. We're standing from here. So first thing that we have to think about when we're going to do a balance on our forearms is that this is becoming our feet, right? Normally we're standing on our feet. Now suddenly we're going to stand on this area. So this area needs to be firm on the floor, okay? And with the hands, for me, being upside down doesn't come very easily or very naturally. And so what I find I have to do is really have my hands so that they're active. I need to make this kind of cup in the hands, and I need to be able to use my fingers so that when my hand is on the floor, I feel like it's like a Spider-Man, I'm going to stick my hand on the floor so much that I would be able to pick up the yoga mat with my hand, just like that. So the fingers are not spread to their maximum. When we spread the fingers to the maximum, it makes the hand weak. But if we keep the fingers glued together, then we don't have as broad of a base to balance on. So I usually keep my hand about like this, like just a soft opening of the fingers. And then my hand's on the floor, and I'm using my hand to hold onto the floor. Okay? So we're going to use a couple of blocks. If you have a short, wider block, then you can use one of those. Otherwise, two blocks like this, put one beside the other, can work as well. And you need to do this against the wall so that if the block, unless you're already very good at Pincha Mayurasana, but just in case if the block tilts, something like that, it's not going to be dangerous because you're against a wall. So I'm going to place my fingers on the block so that my knuckle, the first knuckle, is touching the block, and the thumb. But you see there's a space here where my thumb doesn't touch the block. Okay, so you need to have that little bit of space. But I do not want the block just on the finger like that. Okay, then weird things will end up happening. We'll end up doing Pincha Mayurasana with our fingers lifted like this. So you want to have the joint, the bottom knuckle of that finger, and the thumb on the block. Exactly like this. Exactly. Then put our hands, our blocks, and then place our hands there. I look at my hands and I see that they're not overly spread, and the fingers are also not glued together. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reach away and feel like I'm lengthening my upper back. Then I'm going to swivel my elbows inwards like this. Okay, it might feel a little awkward if you're not used to it, but this is what's going to give you the strength. When I do that, as soon as I do that, I feel the pecs engaging, these muscles on the front of the chest. Okay, so my hands are on the floor, I swivel in my elbows, I feel the pecs, and then I place my elbows down on the floor a little bit narrower than my shoulders. The reason I do that is because now if I move my elbows back and forth, there's this movement available because of the skin. Okay, so I'm going to place my elbows a little narrower than my shoulders, and then not lifting the elbows from the floor, I'm going to slide them out so that I use that skin. And now my elbows are directly underneath my shoulders. The next thing I'm going to do is my knees are bent, my toes are tucked under. I'm going to look at my hands and see if I notice that there's more weight in the elbows than the fingers. I want to try to make it kind of even. So my fingers are working, the behind my knuckles is working, the pads of the thumb are working, and then all I'm going to do is pick up my knees and hold it there. Breathe, find a point to gaze at, and then notice if my weight distribution is still even. Try to keep my shoulders over my elbows so they're not really far forward. And after a few breaths, I come down. So if you're completely brand new to Pincha Mayurasana, this is a really good exercise to work just to get to know that where you need to press to keep your weight even in the forearms. Not to mention, it strengthens the pecs and it strengthens the belly. Okay, so now we're going to move on. I start the same way. I swivel my elbows. I put the elbows on the floor. I let the skin open. And then I round my back, pick up my knees, and I start to lift my lower abdominals towards the ceiling, not the sitting bones. This is lifting my sitting bones. That's not what we want to do. This arches the back. I'm going to lift my lower abdominals. And then I walk my toes in. I keep my elbows over my shoulders. I find a gazing point, and I breathe here. And after some breaths, you release. And if you're trying that at home, you'll see it's a little harder than it looks. So once you feel like you're able to hold this for at least 5-10 breaths and be somewhat comfortable in it, then we're going to try the next step. So everything starts the same. I place my hands, I lengthen my upper back, I swivel my elbows, I put them on the floor, I open the skin, I round my back, feel my lower belly engaging, I start to lift the lower abdominals up towards the ceiling, walk my toes in, and then I find a point to gaze at somewhere between my elbows, and I do these little bounces. And so these little bounces, all they're doing is teaching you to have weight on the forearms. Okay, this is a lot. You don't have to come all the way up. Actually, what I find is if we are too fast in trying to get to the final position, we miss all the little details and we don't build ourselves in the same way. If we work on these details, we get stronger in all, I have an ant on me, in all the little muscles. Okay? So after you feel like you've been doing that exercise for some time and you feel a little more comfortable, then you can take it to the next thing. All starts the same. Lengthen my upper back, swivel the elbows, place them on the floor, let the skin open, round my back, feel the abdominals, feel the pecs, feel the arms, the fingertips, lift the knees, reach the lower abdominals up towards the ceiling, find a steady gazing point, and then from here, I can just come up to the wall without crashing on the wall. It should not make a big noise. Then I push into my forearms and I reach my heels up the wall. Pull the belly in, so I don't want to be like this, like a banana, right? I'm pressing and opening the chest, pressing the heels up towards the ceiling. So there's that. And once you feel like that's kind of comfortable, then you can start to work on balance. But really, I think you need to first find the strength and the stability in the pose before you add the balance to it. If you just take it step by step, then once you have the strength, the balance comes a little more naturally. Okay, so the next one, starting everything the same. Fingers on the mat, swivel the elbows in, place the elbows down, open that skin, feel the lower belly coming in, find your gazing point, feel the lower abdominals coming up to the ceiling, start to lift one leg, maybe you get both or one foot up, press into the forearms, bring the shoulders over the elbows,
keep your steady gazing point and see if you can get both feet off the wall. And then see if you can come down 2 legs at a time.
Okay, so the next step would be working with your teacher in the middle of the room. Okay, good luck with that. Thank you. Namaste. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.